here we go. I made a video responding to Samantha Lux talking about, trans people in sports. And she responded. Very cool, guys. I know, it's very cool. She responded. It's very nice. I liked it. It was just a comment response, but it was pretty poggers. So I want to read it. And I really wanted to make this video because I think it's very important not only to have like conversations and little interactions like this, but also to be contextually and like fully accurate. And I think there's parts of what I said that were wrong. So let's educate ourselves. So Samantha Lux commented and she said, hi, I think she meant hi there. I loved how kind and polite you were. Thank you for that. I tried to be clear that trans women need to be on HRT for 12 months. And in professional sports, they need to have their levels tested throughout the entire time. So no, they cannot go off their HRT and compete. So that was like the big thing I said was like, trans people can simply come off HRT and compete because there's really no qualifier. So I was right and wrong about that, and I'm going to explain. Apparently, and she goes on to talk about this, in the Olympic top tier, like Olympic level, you're required to meet particular standards. Now, what I will say is I wish she included that in the original video because I think that, I don't know why she didn't. It would have been necessary. I don't think that she did it at all. I don't know why she'd leave that out. In fact, I don't know why a lot of trans advocates leave that kind of shit out. Because, like, I didn't know that. Apparently, if you want to compete on the Olympic level, you have to be on HRT. Well, as a trans woman, you have to be on HRT for a year. And you need to also have your testosterone ranges fall within a certain level so that they're not too high. And as a trans man, you can't compete at all if you're on testosterone. I had no idea. I think she mentioned the trans man part, but that really was just in reference of powerlifting, right? So let's get through the rest of this, right? Trans women after transition actually have testosterone levels lower than 95% of cis women. Then she goes on to see blah, 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 blah. A bunch of other stuff. I'm not going to read this. The upper limit isn't allowed. Yeah, so basically she's talking about the limitations on it. Like, that's what we know. Like, they're fair limitations. Trans women cannot just stop their HRT complete and compete. My argument is that they is that shouldn't be allowed, right? So she's agreeing to the point where they should have to be on HRT for a while. Also, it actually can be very easily examined and regulated throughout routine blood work. I'm sorry, but you're spreading misinformation. Trans athletes have always followed the rules, take HRT, met qualifications, etc. So saying they cheat and not take their HRT isn't fair or accurate. Even if they did not take HRT the week of the competition, it takes months of the effects of testosterone to come back. Okay, that's fair. Again, thank you for the politeness and respectfulness of the video. That's fair. So I want to talk about this because there's still more information that I feel like needs to be addressed. So first and foremost, let's establish that at the Olympic level, that you need to be on HRT for a year, and you also have to fall within particular testosterone levels as a trans woman to compete in sports, right? That's fine. Okay, now here's why. This is really the only real reason why it's fine. The reality is that athletes in general at the top tier of the Olympic levels are on performance-enhancing drugs, and testosterone is a base for those PEDs. So to tell trans women to have to maintain a particular testosterone level, it's irrelevant because they're never going to be able to have the testosterone required to compete with like cisgendered women in sports because cis women are going to be on tests. It's widespread, rampant. I would say that if you disagree with my assertion I made, watch Bigger, Stronger, Faster. I think it's Mike Bell who made it. In fact, we'll look it up. It's very revealing. At these top tier of sports, realistically speaking, it's huge. It's really huge how, I think it's on Netflix, how rampant drug use and abuse is in those, and how easy it is to get away with it. So because there's a particular testosterone standard for trans women in those sports, it's actually might even be unfair for those transgender women because they simply will never be able to compete. When it comes to trans men, they can't be on any testosterone in general to compete with men. Again, I think it's irrelevant because like a trans man on testosterone, even using too much, isn't going to be able to compete with a cisgendered man. That's the reality of the situation. Now, as we went through this, I ended up asking about, those rules aren't applied to anyone outside the Olympics. And then she had responded with, even the NCAA supports allowing trans students to compete after 12 months of HRT as well. That's been since 2014, and trans women had nowhere dominated the sport since then. That's fair. Here's the thing. I'm going to say this. When it comes to the college level, and that's NCAA, all it says is that you have to be on HRT for a year. It doesn't say that you have to fall within some kind of hormone parameter, like testosterone parameter, which means that there can be abuse there. But it doesn't matter. I'm going to apply something. Let's say that the exact standard here, where there's a similar standard that, I mean, I understand that she said that, trans women actually have lower testosterone levels of cis women. I'm not sure if that actually is applicable when it comes to sports. I think that's a very nuanced area. So let's say that, you have to be on HRT for 12 months. And let's just say, even though there is no hormone, requirement, that cis women and trans women both have the same levels of testosterone when it comes to sports, or when it comes to competing. The problem is that once you normalize your testosterone levels and everything, let's say it's normalized testosterone, estrogen, whatever. Now it comes to those inherent advantages you get from just growing up through puberty, like larger frames, more muscle mass, just in general, bone density, hip flexibility, largeness of hands is actually bigger than some of you guys think. There's just better, you have these inherent differences now, and that's when they're going to matter. Now I know Samantha Lux in her original video said, yeah, but she talked about two things. She talked about running, or rather endurance running and endurance cycling, basically. And she was like, yeah, basically what happens is once you go on HRT for a year, your ability drops down to that level. Now, first and foremost, I would say that's too closed, right? Of total, there was only one person tested. It was an individual test when it came to cycling. And when it came to running, it was only 7 trans women. So it's not enough. On top of that, that's only aerobic sports. We didn't test other sports. There was reference made of yeah, but it's like a small engine in a big car, which would be a trans woman. But again, that's only seems to be substantiated in endurance sports, like endurance running and endurance cycling. That doesn't address things like, that doesn't address wrestling. That doesn't address shot put. That doesn't address really anything else other than those endurance sports. So it's really not substantiated enough. And this idea that just based on principle that trans women will just be weaker because they hear a small engine in a big car, I just don't buy it. It just seems to be an anecdote kind of thrown out there to kind of dumb it down for people that want to support trans women in sports. And I understand why there would be some kind of support. But at the end of the day, unless we can do this a full analysis on every sport, I really don't think that you can honestly, in good conscience, say that people should be able to compete. Because the thing is, in these college levels, you're not seeing just the steroid usage that you're going to see in the Olympics. So once you normalize everything, you're going to see those biological differences pulled out. So the biological differences of trans women, or trans women when it comes to cisgendered women, because they have features of men, right? Unfortunately, because they are biological men. And I say biological men only in the context of, only for context. I don't call trans women biological men. At the end of the day, we are having a lot of conversations about trans women and trans men in sports. We'll stick mostly to trans women in sports. And we're throwing around a ton of information about how they should be able to compete because we have these very small case studies of this, and we have these precautions, and we have this, and this. At the end of the day, sports is supposed to be about individuals with biological abilities that they were born with an inherent nature, and they're supposed to be about the physicality of people. At the end of the day, we can sit here and have a long conversation about it, but being trans is more about the mentality of an individual rather than the physicality of an individual. And to say that a trans woman should be able to compete in sports, I just don't think is fair. I don't think it ever will be fair. There's no way to purely or truly monitor it across many different sports fields. And I think that I don't say that for fun, where I'm haha, trans women, you can't compete. Screw you. I say it because it's just the most fair way to approach the situation. I just don't see it. I don't see that. I understand that there are very few individuals who want to compete in sports and them getting very upset by the fact that they can't. But that minority, the mentality of that minority shouldn't outweigh the mentality of the majority. And I would imagine that most cisgendered women in sports are not particularly thrilled about competing with trans women. And maybe I'm wrong. I just, at the end of the day, I really still haven't moved on my position. I was ignorant in some of the things I said, but again, I don't know why you never included all this pretext there in your video. I think that would have been good, because then we wouldn't be here right now, huh? You know? But I wanted to make that because I wanted to clear it up, because I didn't want people to, think that what I said was inherently accurate. I'm not going to pull down the original video, but I will make another video addressing it. So, yeah, that's that. That's that piece. Thank you so much, guys, to all my Patreons, and a special shout out to my Papa XL Patreons. Without all you guys, I would just be some fat dude screaming into a microphone. So thank you so much, guys. Mwah. I love you all. I want Papa Gut to pee on my face, but just as a friend. There's nothing weird about that. I want him to pee on my face.